In this problem, I'm going to show how to use a number line to subtract integers, particularly if one or both of those integers are negative. Before doing so, though, I want to develop some intuition by showing you how to use the real number line to subtract positive integers. So here we have a positive 5, and we are going to subtract the positive integer 3. And I'm going to do so by just looking at the distance between those two numbers on the real number line. So for example, here's the number 5 on the real number line, here's the number 3, and you can see that they are 2 units apart. So this tells me that the answer involves the number 2. Now I just need to find out whether the answer is positive 2 or negative 2. So it turns out that I know that the answer is positive 2 because I took a number that was greater and subtracted off a number that was lesser. And whenever you take a number that's greater and you subtract off a number that's less than that, you're going to end up with a positive result. So imagine having $5 and somebody took 3 away, so you'd still have money left, and this would be considered positive. Now let's consider if we switch the order. Rather than 5 subtract 3, suppose we had 3 and we were subtracting 5. It would still involve the two integers 3 and 5. 3 and 5 are 2 units apart on the real number line, so again we know the answer involves 2. But imagine if you had $3, say, and you owed somebody 5. Well, there's no way to pay somebody $5 if you only have 3, so you are going to end up with a debt. In fact, you're going to be in debt $2, so we consider this case negative. So this would be an example where you have a number on the left that's of lesser value and you're subtracting off a number that is greater in value. This is easy to see on the real number line because the lesser numbers are always to the left of the greater numbers and vice versa. If you have two numbers on the number line, numbers to the right are greater than those on the left. So since we took a number that's lesser in value, 1 to the left, and we subtracted a number that was greater in value, meaning it was to the right, we end up with a negative result. So I'm going to keep these rules over here to the side, and let's use what we just learned on some more difficult problems. Suppose this time I had a negative 4 and I am to subtract a negative 3. So here we are at negative 4 on the real number line, and I'm going to subtract negative 3, which is right here. The fact that these two numbers on the number line are only 1 unit apart means that my answer is either 1 or it is negative 1, and I will figure out which is the case by looking at which one's to the left or has lesser value, and which number is on the right, which would have greater value. So when I see the statement lesser minus greater, if you're looking at a real number line, which of course goes left to right, you could think of lesser as always being on the left. So we took a number on the left and we are subtracting a number on the right. So you could think of this as we have a number that's less in value, subtracting a number that is greater. Or you could think of it as that negative 4 was left of negative 3 and negative 3 was on the right. Either case, numbers to the left minus numbers to the right always indicate a lesser number minus a greater, and your result will always be negative. So I know the result in this case is that negative 4 subtract negative 3 turns out to be negative 1, not positive 1. So let's apply this a couple more times using a variety of problems. This time I'm going to take a negative and subtract a positive. So I have the integer negative 8, which is here on the real number line. I'm subtracting the integer 12, which I don't even have on my number line. I'll have to extend it out to 12. Already I can tell you that my answer is going to be negative because I'm taking a number that's on the left and I'm subtracting a number that's on the right. So if you take a number to the left and subtract a number to the right, that means you're taking one of lesser value and subtracting one of greater value. So I am going to get a negative result Now it is just a matter of knowing how many units there are between -8 and 12. Well, rather than counting by ones, 1, 2, 3, you may want to consider that the fact this is -8 means that it's 8 units away from 0, and then from 0 to 12 would of course be 12 units. And if this is 8 units and you have to go 12 more, that means there are 20 units between them, making my answer -20. In this last example, I switched things a little bit so that this time we have a positive number subtract a negative number. Because the number -13 was outside my labels on my number line, I decided just to show you that even if you had just a piece of paper and pencil, you could draw a real number line. You could label 0 so that you know that the positives would be over here and your negative numbers would be over here. So +8 would be over here, and it would be 8 units from 0. -13, to label that because it's negative, would be 13 units to the left of 0, so that would be over here at -13. And I may start just by figuring out whether my answer is going to be positive or negative. So we are taking 8, which is on the right, and we are subtracting -13, which is on the left. So the fact that the number 8 is on the right and the number -13 is on the left, together with the fact that numbers to the right are always greater than numbers on the left, we have a number that is greater and we are subtracting off one that is less than that. So we have a situation where we're taking a greater number and subtracting one that's lesser in value, so we should get a positive result. So my answer should be positive because we are doing right minus left, or greater minus lesser. And to figure out what that positive number would be, we only need to figure out the distance between the two numbers. So the distance between -13 and 0 would be 13 units, and the distance from 0 to 8 would be 8 more. So we have, if we were to travel from this point to that point, we would have to go a distance of 13 units and add on a distance of 8 more, and 13 plus 8 is 21.